In case of an emergency, please don't panic. Our volunteers and security staff will guide you to the nearest emergency exit. All emergency exits are clearly marked.
पगला में धोवती थे तो घरा पदा रो पीव और बदाई मैं क्या देऊं तो पर पल पल जमारू जीव केसरिया पालमा अबोनी पधारो मारे
Everyone, welcome to Jaipur Literature Festival's Samvad venue. Before we start our next session, just a couple of housekeeping announcements to make. Please make sure all your cell phones are set to silent. And please don't leave your bags unattended. We obviously cannot be responsible for everybody's bags. So make sure you have your bags with you at all times. Please ensure... If you do have seats, if you find that you're sitting on the edges and you have seats in the middle, please do move in so we can allow late arrivals to sit down easily. Please keep the aisles free for your own safety and security. No flash photography, please. But we really encourage you to tweet using the hashtag ZJLF2019. Please note that we try to create a safe space at ZJLF for everyone, and no harassment of any kind will be tolerated. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce the next session presented by the International Play Association, or IPA. This is a very important session, I think, in these increasingly complex times. Childhood and the Right to Play. Please welcome to the stage Cynthia Gentry, Jonas Larsson, Kathy Wong, Puneeta Roy, Robyn Monro-Miller in conversation with Sudeshna Chatterjee. Thank you.
Hi. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this panel. For the next hour or so, we are going to be discussing a very important topic, a very fundamental but often forgotten right of children, which is the right to play. And to discuss that, we have here some passionate advocates of children's rights and, in particular, the right to play from across the world. We have Kathy Wong, who is the director of Playright, Children's Play Association in Hong Kong. We have Robyn Monro-Miller, who is the current president of the International Play Association. Also, she is the CEO of Kids Giving Back in Australia. We have Cynthia Gentry, who is a very well-known play space designer from the US. And we have Jonas Larsson, who had been a play worker as well as a teacher in Sweden. And we have Puneeta Roy, who is the Managing Trustee of Yuva Ekta Foundation. So welcome to all of you to this panel. I will start with you, Robyn. You are the current president of the International Play Association. Can you tell us a little bit about why is play so fundamental to childhood and to children? And what is the International Play Association doing to promote this right across the world?
Thank you, Sudeshna. I suppose when we talk about children's right to play, there are probably many of us who sit there and say, who ever questioned a child's right to play? But what we do know is that play across the world is something that is in a way endangered by many of the outside influences that are coming into children's lives. For us at the International Play Association, we're a cross-sectoral organisation drawing from across at least 23 countries. And we're all committed to the fact that we need to promote and also protect play opportunities for children. I suppose why we feel so passionately about this is because play is not only fundamental to children's development, it's actually a biological imperative that we play. All children need opportunities to play, and if we look through what we know about life and biology, we see animals play. You will see elephants involved in play, you will see lions, tigers involved in play, and yet that play never seems to be questioned. For children, often people see play as a waste of time, as something they do when they're not doing other things, and optional. For us, we know that play is, if we do not play, we are not developing our brains. It's not just a physical manifestation for play, it's actually what is occurring in our brain when it happens. And some of that is largely unknown as to what the implications are going to be if we don't give opportunities for children to have time to play, time where they actually are involved in looking and exploring and discovering. They will be taking risks. And so our role at the International Play Association is to highlight this information to people, to actually ensure that governments take proper due care about what are the policy decisions they're making that are impacting on play, and also educating the community about why play is no longer an optional thing but something we need to be protecting and promoting in every community. I suppose our work to date, and a highlight of our work to date, is that we're aware that the United Nations has a Convention on the Rights of the Child, and one of those is Article 31, the child's right to play. So that is enshrined in legislation in a way. It actually protects us to say it is a fundamental human right for children. And IPA, one of our greatest achievements has been the development of what they call a general comment at the UN. And a general comment gives governments across the world more information about how to support and promote play. It's freely available on websites, it's freely available for people to look at, but it's certainly become a tool for us to use as an international organisation to encourage governments to fulfil that obligation to protect children's right to play. One of the things that we've done, as well as a video, a short film, which we actually played at our launch of the General Comment in Geneva in Switzerland, and we'd like to share that with you just to start getting the energy together. And I'd just like to leave you before this video with a thought. How many of you in the audience have a dog or have seen dogs? Okay, what do we know about a dog when it wants to play? How do we know when a dog wants to play? Wags its tail, yes? Anything else? Mm-hmm. Yes? Yeah. These are play cues. And we see them in animals all the time. They give us these cues to play. And yet, for our children, what are the play cues our children are giving to us? And that's really important. We need to start listening to what our children need. It's not so much about how adults make children play, it's about adults creating environments where children can play freely. So I'll just hand over to this short presentation that I hope will give you some more information about that general comment and hopefully energise us for what we're going to hear from the rest of the participants.
Yeah, so can we have the video one, please?
take it in, but don't look down. 'Cause I'm on top of the world, I'm on top of the world, Been waiting on this for a while now. Paying my dues to the dirt. I've been waiting to slide, Been holding it in for a while, Take you with me if I can. Been dreaming of this since a child. I'm on top of the world.
To think of play as being important for children's physical activity and physical growth and development. And that's certainly true. But it's equally important for children's mental development, social relations, and their emotional development. Play is the primary means by which young children explore and learn about the world and themselves. We needed this general comment to be written because there's a tendency for many people in the world to think that play is optional, not fundamental. Play is absolutely fundamental to children's physical, social, mental, and emotional development.
Been dreaming of this since a child. I'm on top of the world. I'm on top of the world, I'm on top of the world, Been waiting on this for a while now. Paying my dues to the dirt. I've been waiting to slide, Been holding it in for a while, Take you with me if I can. Been dreaming of this since a child. And I know it's hard when you're falling down and it's a long way up and you make the ground, but get up now, get up now. And I know it's hard when you're falling down and it's a long way up and you make the ground, but get up now, get up now. I'm on top of the world.
Thank you for that, Robyn. Cynthia, I'll come to you. You are a designer of play spaces, and you are a staunch advocate of the right to play. In fact, you made the film, that film that we saw just now. Tell me, do you think we, we talk about, when we talk about play, we talk about play spaces as being a very important variable for promoting and protecting play. Do you think we as a society are doing enough to create play spaces and also protect the existing play spaces of children? I mean, who are your clients that you work with? Who promotes this? And what are some of the ways of making great play spaces?
Well, it's sort of a lot to cover, and I will be speaking pretty much from an American construct because that's where I design. But I also want to tell you all that that was my grandson playing the piano in that video, so talent. Children will play anywhere. They're going to play in the back seat of the car. They're going to play when you're in line at the grocery store. They're going to play when you really least want them to. But it's just an innate part of their being. But frequently, and I know in the United States, we're losing our places to play. We've gone through decades of what I call scorched earth landscape design, where they would pretty much strip away every single thing that was living, put up plastic, rubber, and steel equipment, and cover everything with rubber because, oh my goodness, you don't want someone to fall. It's just become overly safety conscious. And what has happened in that is the children have lost the place to explore the earth and explore the world. I wear this, and for decades I've worn this necklace around my neck, and it's an old Carlos Castaneda quote from back in the day, and it's, "Does this path have a heart?" I originally wore it to help me find my personal path on this planet, but now it is like my design mantra. The places that I design are living and breathing. They're green, they have plants, they are, some would call them messy. Usually the maintenance staff would call them messy. But what they are natural gardens where children can go and explore their world freely at their own direction. We've seen a lot of spaces that are for a purpose. If we send our child to this place, they will learn X, Y, Z. But the beauty of play and child-directed play is that children learn what they're going to learn. I know when I was little, I would gather all my friends together and write plays. You know, and my sister would gather all her friends together and play ball. You know, each child would find themselves in this free play space. And in the way people are moving into the urban environment and land is becoming more expensive and harder to come by, designing spaces that are, it's almost designed to be undesigned. You know, they're designed to give children freedom. They're designed, I think it's critical to give children beauty. But when they're filled with nature, children find words. And I know we're talking, this is a literature festival. Well, one of the most wonderful things that you can do for particularly a young child is to put them in a natural environment. And then the words come to them. They make up stories. It's a beautiful way for creativity that I think is innate in almost all children, to stay with them and to blossom rather than to be, you know, sit here and learn this. And I know school has its place, but not in the playground. So I design for unschool learning, if that makes sense. So.
Thank you, Cynthia. Jonas, I'll come to you. You come from Sweden. The world looks up to Scandinavian countries for many things. Early child, best examples, practices in early childhood development, schooling, play. What can you tell us about another very important variable for promoting right to play, which is time, and as well as permission? How come kids in your part of the world have so much more time and permission to play? And you know, they start schooling later, but they seem to be doing all right. So what's your take on it?
Oh, my holy ticket is no. We have in many years working in Sweden with not making the child's right to the child's right to its parent, to meet them and be with them from they're born, the parental leave, and the possibility for parents to be with the kids when they're small, not go to work after 2 months or so. So they can be with them when they're young, to get to know them, and to work, play with them in home, at kindergarten, open kindergarten, where you can play, and what should I say more? And in school, you have time to play on the at the playground. We are establishing playgrounds at the schoolyards so they can play there. So it's possible. You have time to play and the possibility to play, because you see that people, the kids, they develop through play every time of the day, even in school. So, well, and about reading, we have certain projects that we learn the fathers to read with the kids, because the science shows that the fathers to read with the kids, they connect with them in a better way. They play more and they connect better. Mm-hmm. Yes?
Yeah, thank you. Kathy, you come from Hong Kong, where very similar situation to a lot of Asian megacities in India, particularly, where children neither seem to have much space or time to play. In that context, what kind of resources are available to you to create opportunities for play for children in sort of dense urban environments?
Yes, you are very right. Hong Kong, we are a developed city, and then like many Asian countries, that our children, they don't have enough time or payable space for them to enjoy play. And then as an organization that we believe play is so important for children. So how can we make sure that children can really enjoy play so that they have a better childhood? So that is a very, very important thing we have to tackle. And one very, very important thing is the adults. Why children don't have time to play and why we don't have enough playable space. And one is because many of the adults, they have a different belief, especially in Asian countries, because we think that what is important for children is they think children need to study hard and play is a waste of time. So it is very, very commonly believed in Hong Kong. And then the adults, they think, okay, if the children, they can be better is when they are young, they study hard, they have good academic results, then they can ensure a better future. So that belief make our children nowadays, they are very overscheduled, they are stressful, and they are not happy. So how we can bring back the childhood for the children? And so when you talk about resources, and we think about the barrier for children having play is adult. So one thing is we are thinking how we can turn this barrier to become a resources to support children's play. So one thing we are doing is to support the adults so that they can support play. So they become our important resources. So what we are doing in Hong Kong is mainly three things. One is how we support parents is we provide training. And we talk about training is about training on play work practice. Play work is something very new to Hong Kong at the beginning because play work is a profession that support children's free play. So what we want to do is we develop the adults in Hong Kong that they know about play work. And then when we talk about adult, we are referring the parents and also those professionals that they work for children. So including they are in education sector or medical sector or in community recreation sector. They are all these professionals affecting children's play. So one thing very important is we want to provide training and education so that these adults, they understand children's need to play and they actually support play. So they become one of our advocates. So one thing is the training. The second thing is we do want to, because when we talk about play work, it originate from UK when they, like 1940s, that they do it play work in the adventure playgrounds. So the second thing, besides providing training, the second thing is we need to develop local materials, like we publish books, we publish guidelines, or we borrow overseas so that we have some reference for the local professionals or parents. If they want to give play to children, they can use this as reference. And the last very important things we are doing is you can't ask adults to support play just by here. And this is important because the mindset change is important. But just here is not important. It has to be from the heart. So how can we do that? Is we have to provide the adults so that they can experience. So we provide opportunities. So we partner with local organizations or international groups. So we develop play programs in Hong Kong so that the adult, they join the training and then they come to the play events so they can experience what means by free play. This is a very different concept because for adults, they think a good play has to be structured, has to be something with purpose, with education value. But free play is very different because for adults, they are talking about learning activities through play. But what we meant by free play is child-led, is directed by children. And the magic is when the adult actually see children playing in school, children playing in the park, they see the magic happen. They see children playing differently. They behave differently in free play. And so they experience from the heart that they start to appreciate free play. So they become our resources to work with us, to ask for more free play opportunity for children. And I bring with me a video that happened last November. It's supported by the government, and we got some sponsor, and the parents come with the children to play. So it's in a public park. It's the video too. So I want to share with you. It's in Hong Kong last November. So what this is, we want to create a playful community working together with children and parents.
It's interesting, that concept of play, and from an international perspective, we see, as we heard from Jonas and in Sweden and in Hong Kong, that the experience that our communities have with play, particularly as adults, and how we as children, when we were children, what our experience was, definitely shapes our perceptions of what play is in the future or what it is for our children. And I think it's important to recognise that play, for many people, the more committed you become to play as an adult, you sometimes have a tendency to over-intervene in children's play. And I think we need to, it's one of another threat to play is that we as adults, sometimes in our bid to be really helpful, can get so involved in children's play that it no longer becomes children's play. It becomes adults' play directed by children. And I think it's interesting when we talk about free play, I find those two words just don't really go, because play is free. Anything else isn't play. And we need to recognise that. In Australia, I've been encouraging people to take an attitude of passive neglect, okay, which means you stand back and let play happen. Our role is to allow the opportunities and the environments for play. As Cynthia was talking about, those environments can be wonderful, but how children will manipulate and use their environments will be very different depending on your cultural context, depending on what you're exposed to. The more opportunities we have, the better it will be. And I think each community needs to take on board what you hear from each of us, because from an international perspective, it's very diverse, and it will be diverse in your own communities as to how you allow play to happen and what context you put around play. But just always keep in mind, we don't have to be there every second of the day to ensure that good play happens. It will happen anywhere.
Thank you for that, Robyn. Puneeta, I'll come to you now. Thus far, we had been talking about, children who are typically under 14 years of age.
Right.
You work with older adolescents, some of whom are in difficult circumstances.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about how you work with right to play, recreation, artistic and cultural rights of children to help these young people.
Thank you, Sudeshna. So I'm actually going to expand the boundaries of what we look at play as conventional play for children. And I was fascinated hearing whatever all my co-panelists have shared. So I work actually with young people in conflict with law, primarily in Delhi. And it's supposed to be 16 to 18. But a lot of the young men I work with are about 16 to about 23, 24. And we take them through expressive arts, the expressive art therapy. But fundamental to all of that is really the concept of play. We've sort of realized that because, these are young people who have taken stands against the law. So they're very much their own individuals. And how are you going to get a group of 25 young men, who are defiant, rebellious, and angry, to actually come together as a group and work? And we always have to resort to icebreakers, to games, where you reconnect with the sense of play within them. So, I've seen that, you mentioned this thing about it being a biological need, about getting the blood to circulate. And, the whole sense of when you start playing games with them, sort of triggering off the sense of competition, team building. It's so important that play helps us to do that. And then to just laugh, lighten up the whole atmosphere. And so they walk in, it's normally 2-hour sessions that we have. They walk in kind of, heavy, burdened, isolated, not wanting to connect. And as the games start, sort of rolling out, you can see a physical lightening up. There's a lightening up of the children. With the teams, they start sort of, it's like a socialization process. And I know it happens in the playgrounds, but I would say to just extend the boundaries of what a conventional playground looks, to say that the playgrounds can actually happen without maybe the physical instruments. It's important when they're children, but as young adults, and when we are looking in a remand home, when you don't have access, it is that whole attitude of play. And, I keep talking, my background is theater. And I was just thinking, my God, we keep saying, so now let's do a play. And, when you play with plays, you actually get that lightness, that's just so important. And in fact, in Jaipur also during the festival outreach, we get children from rural NGOs from across Rajasthan to integrate with urban kids in cities here. And a lot of it is through play. And through play, we start discussions on social issues. And out of a 7-week workshop of play and fun and sharing, we evolve a street play that is actually going to be performed here on Sunday in the afternoon. Yeah. So I want to just end, Sudeshna, with, talking about the fact that I want to play too.
Yes,
I want us to connect with the inner child that's in each one of us.
Yes, absolutely.
And I know that when I play games with the children, the day is so much more fun.
Yes.
Really.
There's that quote by George Bernard Shaw, we don't grow old because we stop playing, we grow old. Oh no, we don't grow old because, what is it? I've got to remember now.
We don't.
Sorry. We grow old because we stop playing,
yeah.
when we stop playing. And I think
Yes.
we really need to preserve that. We all got that playful need we have to
Absolutely.
have.
And when you spoke about the play work thing and the adults watching, I think they need to be part of it. They need to run and play and jump with the children. And then really we would know what, childhood is all about. Seriously.
Could I just ask Puneeta about the young offenders that you're working with?
Yes.
Have you ever explored what their play history is? Did they have many opportunities to play?
No. No, it's not that I've not explored it. No, I'm saying that very, very little of that childhood, they've had access to that because a lot of them come from, dire poverty, so they've gotten to, trying to eke a living very early on. Many have not been to school, and it's been abusive, the circumstances, the families. So a lot of them, I mean, whether it's playing with colors in art, they've never held a paint box in their lives. So it's when you're, sort of triggering that off, as catalysts, there's so much that's happening, a development within them as human beings.
And I just asked that question because we know the research that's available around the effects of play deprivation is quite significant, the significant impact it has on brain development and on the sort of likelihood of a successful outcomes in the future.
Absolutely, and feeling part of society.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Robyn, it's actually a good point to discuss. IPA recently had been engaged with exactly this, providing access to play for children living in situations of crisis. And I know that you did this global project in 6 countries. Would you like to talk about it? I was also involved with the project, so we will have a conversation about that a little bit.
And I certainly, Sudeshna was one of the lead people on that project, so certainly, please join in. But that project that we did was access to play in situations of crisis, and a resource kit has actually been developed around that, which is critical for developing play opportunities in areas and communities where a situation in crisis has emerged. The project actually was across 6 countries, Japan, Thailand, India, Nepal, Lebanon and Turkey. And we were able to actually combine people who are actually working on the ground in those countries and also developing their research skills so that they actually help develop this toolkit of activities and of work that helps inform those people working with children in crisis situations. But I suppose I would like to lead back to you, Sudeshna, on that because there's so much rich information and research came out of that project that International Play Association is looking at that, even developing further in years to come in different regions because it has been so successful to date.
Yeah. So in this particular project, we looked at children who had survived natural disasters. In Japan and Nepal, we worked with children who had faced earthquakes, devastating earthquakes. In Turkey and Lebanon, we worked with Syrian refugee children who were staying in these camps in Lebanon as well as in Turkey. In India and Thailand, we worked with children of new migrants to cities who were either living in slums or squatters in extremely dangerous, risky areas in cities next to live railway tracks, next to very high current rivers, etc. And what came out of this, we found, just to take the case of Japan and Nepal, Japan was prepared for earthquakes and people were evacuated fast. There were not many deaths. This is after the East Japan earthquake. But what we saw that in these emergency shelters where families were staying for more than 6 months sometimes, after that they were going into state-provided housing, children had no right to play. They were expected to be very quiet. They were expected to be well-behaved. And the only time they actually had any opportunity to play when play workers would come in and create those opportunities for them. Whereas in the context of Nepal, these were very poor rural communities. Nothing was provided. There was no housing that was given to these people. So people were part of rebuilding their own lives, and parents were busy with their older children building their own homes from the debris that's lying around them or buying things from the market. So younger children were told by parents, go out and play, go out and play. Where do they go out and play? There were steep slopes, everything is strewn. And the kids actually talked about how fun it was because they were all living in the open with their neighbors. It was one open community. And what were they playing? We saw these young kids actually, they were busy playing, making cities and houses, whatever they saw the adults and elder siblings doing, they were busy recreating their own world through their play, and which was also very fascinating. It talks about the resilience of kids, when facing crisis. Similarly, in the context of Kolkata, where we worked with these squatter settlers along a railway track, the these kids had no access to formal playgrounds, or they don't go to school, they don't have access to anything, third generation squatter settlers. Their biggest play space was the river Hooghly, and they were busy making rafts and floating on the river, taking the raft midway into the high tide and playing in the middle of the river. And so when we asked them, what are you scared? They say, oh, it's not risky at all. Sometimes the dolphins come and overturn the raft, but we know how to swim back. But there are deaths that happen on that river every year, which are never reported. So, it's quite fascinating, and you can find all this work in IPA's website. There's also a film on it, which unfortunately we won't be showing today. Yeah.
And we certainly, through the project, saw that when children were in times of crisis, play was a fundamental way that they actually learnt to make sense of the crisis around them. Yeah. That frequently they recreated sort of aspects of that crisis situation. And so it was so important that children had these opportunities to play freely and to get that sense of what was happening. And the projects in Japan, where children had less opportunity to play, hopefully our project and the research we've done will actually better inform those groups moving forward about what is the best way to handle and support children through times of crisis. And it is through play. As I say, the biological imperative of play is also something that play heals us, and having the opportunity to play. Puneeta, you've got that healing aspect as well. Yeah. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, Cynthia, you are the communication officer for IPA. Tell us a little bit more about what are the future plans of IPA to promote right to play across the world, especially in developing countries and in the majority world where this right is not recognized much or nothing much is done about it. So what are some of the ways that you see the outreach work happening?
One of the unique things about IPA is that it's based on branches. We have branches all over the country and are growing more. I mean, all over the world.
Can you just put it closer to your mouth, the mic, please?
Oh, here we go. We have branches around the world, and more coming online all the time. And it's very critical for people at the site, in the community, to make advances in play and the information that we have available on play known to the community. We develop movies, videos. We have this a magazine. We'll have some available afterwards. This is about the Play in Crisis project. We even have children have written posters about their understanding of Article 31 on the UN Convention of the Rights of the Child, which is about a child's right to play. We thought, well, let's go to the ones who need to understand it the most, the children. So we've got quite a few of those for you if you'd like out front. And then one of the most exciting things, I think, for this audience is that in November of 2020, we're going to have our triennial World Conference here at the Dickey Palace. And we do have a video to show you a little bit about what is coming next November away. Yeah. So if you could show the video number 3. Thanks.
सिंदड़ी दा सेवन दा सखी शाबास कलंदर हो लाल मेरी बद रखियो बाला झूले लालन सिंदड़ी दा सेवन दा सखी शाबास कलंदर दमादम मस्त कलंदर अली दम दम दे अंदर दमादम मस्त कलंदर अली दा पहला नंबर ओ लाल मेरी है लाल मेरी चार चराग तेरे बरन हमेशा चार चराग तेरे बरन हमेशा पंजवा में बारन पंजवा में बारन आई बला झूले लालन पंजवा में बारन आई बला झूले लालन सिंदड़ी दा सेवन दा सखी शाबाश कलंदर दमादम मस्त कलंदर अली दम दम दे अंदर दमादम मस्त कलंदर अली दा पहला नंबर ओ लाल मेरी है लाल मेरी हिंद सिंध पीरा तेरी नौबत वाले हिंद सिंध पीरा तेरी नौबत वाले लाल बजे घड़ी लाल बला झूले लालन ओ लाल बजे ओ लाल बजे घड़ी लाल बला झूले लालन सिंदड़ी दा सेवन दा सखी शाबाश कलंदर दमादम मस्त कलंदर अली दा दम दे अंदर दमादम मस्त कलंदर अली दा पहला नंबर ओ लाल मेरी है लाल मेरी लाल मेरी परे रखियो बाला झूले लालन सिंदड़ी दा सेवन दा सखी शाबाश कलंदर दमादम मस्त कलंदर अली दम दम दे दमादम मस्त कलंदर अली दा पहला नंबर दमादम मस्त कलंदर अली दम दम दे दमादम मस्त कलंदर अली दम दम दे दमादम मस्त कलंदर अली दा पहला नंबर दमादम मस्त कलंदर अली दा पहला नंबर दमादम मस्त कलंदर अली दा पहला नंबर दमादम मस्त कलंदर अली दम दम दे अली दम दम दे अली दम दम दे अली दम दम दे
So yeah, this conference is going to happen here next year in November. And like Cynthia said, some of IPA's magazines and material will be out in the kiosk outside for you to take for free. We don't charge for any of the publications. So I would like to now open up the floor for any questions that any of you might have. So if you can have some mics on the ground, please.
Ma'am, like you already said, that there is a child within each of us. But we are so lost in the hustle and bustle of life that we forget to recognize and realize when is that child alive while we are already involved in something else. So please tell me that how can we take out time to play and how can we help ourselves in keeping the child alive?
Yes. Who would like to take this?
Okay, Robyn? Oh, I think taking the time, I thought it was addressed to Puneeta, was it? Yes. Yeah.
You go ahead and I'll add to it. Yes.
I think it is very, very easy to be overwhelmed by life that we don't actually seize those tiny moments of play, the playfulness that just in your day-to-day life of, with a friend, laughing. I've been known to play hide and seek in railway stations in Hong Kong on the way to a train with some IPA delegates. So I think, seize the moment, any moment you can. Life is a very serious business, but it doesn't have to always be. So I suppose for us, I think stay young by playing.
Absolutely, and I think you need to, in your head, the fact that you're even asking this question right now, you're reflecting about it, right? Don't take yourself so seriously. I keep telling the kids we work with also, fool around. It's great fun to be foolish at times also, right? So like, she suggested that with a friend, or, just skip along or just start running and, seek people out that you can play with. And if your parents are an issue, because I know a lot of the children I work with say, please speak to our parents. I think it's the adults that are you're wasting time. It's not a waste of time. So I would just say, bring your parents up now, make them grow up with you, okay? Or get them to play with you also.
Ma'am, but the thing is, parents are not the only concern. We are supposed to follow the social norms.
Whose society? It's you and me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we will talk about this offline, as they say. We'll talk about this once this is over, right? Let's get other people a chance.
Yes.
We'll talk.
Yeah. A few hands. Here.
Hi. I'm kind of curious on a specific area and would love to hear any advice or articulation you could give about the importance of what we sometimes call downtime, but I would really say is an opportunity to play for older children. I'm thinking upper elementary, middle school, and high school. And I'm particularly in my role, I'm obviously a foreigner, but I work here in India as a school administrator, both a CBSE and an international school, and trying to start a conversation about the impact of homework and tutoring, which is particularly as an outsider perspective. On one hand, I'm extremely impressed with the rigor and the dedication to education, but I also see the absolute elimination of any time for these young people to what I would call play. And in the extreme pressure to achieve high marks on your CBSE boards, but also the importance, even at these older ages in child development, which you're the experts on having this opportunity. So in trying to start these conversations with families, teachers, communities, particularly around homework and getting a balance with school and trying to make sure we graduate fully developed neurologically, social emotionally young people, I'd love some more insight and thought on how to reestablish the value of downtime or playtime and get that balance with school and maybe even back off on some of the homework and the tutoring.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe Kathy, you want to respond? Yeah.
Yes, you are talking about a very, very big and important question. And lately in Hong Kong, there's a lot of struggle because our children, they are suffering. They go to school, they have a lot of homework, and we talk about whether we can have changed the policy of controlling the homework and all those stuff. And what we are doing is, and I think one thing is, we cannot totally change the system overnight. So what we are doing is we are having partnership aligned with those people or the school that want to make change for children. So one thing is, what we are doing is like a seed school program in Hong Kong that we partner with 10 schools that we say we want free play in school for children, and they support that. So then we work together that we train the teachers how to provide free play in school, and also based on the setting. Because in Hong Kong it's very different from like European school or international school. They have big spaces. But in Hong Kong, our school are very packed, no space. And then there are no time. The curriculum is full. So what we do with the school is we try to work together to create some more space and time in the school. And what we are doing now is we work with them to create a model. And then we partner with university to do research to demonstrate how this free play happening in school can make a value for the school and for the children. And we are hopefully next year, maybe when we have the conference, we can share the result. Because if you want to change, you need data, how that make a difference. And then with that, we can change the other school principals and also the education bureau so that they can support and make change to give more time and space for the children to play in the school sector. So that's how we do to work with the school that support, and then we do demonstration, and we do training, and we do research, so that all come together. Hopefully, we can make some change in future.
Can I just add one point? I just think it's also really critical to start conversations within the school about your parameters of success. You know, is it finally just material well-being that we're all working towards or pushing the kids, which is the whole competitive rat race we talk about, or holistic well-being? You know, because I've seen that when you work, you know, just starting these conversations and getting the teachers and principals to reflect on where are we pushing our kids eventually, what's the goal? It does kind of help to then lighten up, you know, the stress that they're feeling, that we need to make sure that, yeah, when they leave, they get those top grades and get the top, you know, jobs or whatever. But yeah, for me, it's a huge thing. What is your parameter of success? Yeah.
I would just like to add to that, you know, there are several campaigns happening globally. One of them is this Outdoor Classroom Day campaign, which is a school-based campaign across the world. It's also happening in India for 2 years now. Telling schools that you need to develop a culture of learning not only in classroom but also outside, and also a culture of play and playfulness in children. So it's celebrated 3 times a year, but the idea is that schools take it on and develop that culture. There are resources available for teachers, even though a lot of schools do outreach program into the community, but they're not really doing play in India, because that's the hard one to get. And for a teacher, when you have a class of 40, 50 kids, it's difficult to take them outside and engage with them. So there are resources available online, which are doing that kind of online teacher training at a global scale to say what you can do to promote play within schools.
I think we need to be conscious that what you're trying to do is going to be shift a whole sort of cultural sort of thing that's built up. And so just even small progress of starting to get people talking about play grows brains, play is a biological imperative. Just even showing them pictures of animals playing, saying if animals play, there must be some fundamental biological purpose for that play, for our own evolution. Okay, why, if they play, our children play, why is that so important? We may not have all the answers. And there's a leading researcher who's passed away now, Brian Sutton Smith, and when he came to the end of his life, he said, you know, the more he knew about play, the less he understood it. But we know it's important. And so I suppose just those shifts away of saying, if we don't play, what are the consequences? What are the consequences for children? What are the consequences for us, for evolution? Because animals have got it right. Why are we stopping something that's so biologically inbuilt and intrinsic in ourselves and in our whole human development? So,
do we have time for any more questions or no? Okay. Well. So we are, you know, we can talk to you after the panel outside. I think we have to stop here. So yeah.
I want to thank this wonderful panel for not only this great session, but also for the great work that they do. Thank you all so much. And yes, there will be magazines for the taking. at the book signing tent just up the stairs over there. Thank you all.